Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. Well, I've been kind of out of the loop for the past couple of weeks due to some medical problems, and I'm still dealing with quite a bit of pain. That being said, I'm going to try to press forward because there was some pretty exciting news here recently. And part of that news was the release of Incus version 6.16. Now, you wouldn't normally assume that 6.16 would be a major release, and it's not really a major release, but it does have some pretty major improvements or additions to it. And one of the additions is the ability to install Windows VMs without having to rely on using Distro Builder to repack the ISO. And then they also have what I'm going to talk about today, which is a new storage driver. And specifically, that new storage driver is a TrueNAS Storage Driver. So the driver that they added operates in a block-based mode, and that means that all the Incus volumes are created as ZFS volume block devices, kind of like we have today by creating a ZFS storage pool. But this time, they can be on a remote TrueNAS server. And these block-oriented devices are actually accessed on the local Incus node via iSCSI, because those of you that use TrueNAS know that TrueNAS's backing storage structure is, for the most part, ZFS, and one of the things that they support is ZFS over iSCSI. So the driver relies on the TrueNAS Incus CTL tool to interact with the TrueNAS API and perform actions on the remote server. And this tool ends up managing the activation and deactivation of remote ZFS volumes via OpenISCSI. And so we're going to see what steps you have to perform in order to be able to support this new capability. So I'm running TrueNAS Scale version 25.04, and a requirement in order to be able to use the new storage driver is that on your Incus server you need to install this tool called the TrueNAS Incus CTL tool, which is called from the latest version 6.16 of Incus. So we're going to go ahead and look at the steps required in order to install iSCSI and configure this. So if I run over to my TrueNAS Scale 25.04 server, the first thing we want to do is go down to System, go over to Services, and then under iSCSI, we want to turn the iSCSI protocol on, and we want to tell iSCSI to start automatically. Next, I head over to my Incus server and I do an Incus -- version, and you can see that I'm running Incus version 6.15. And the new storage driver for TrueNAS is supported beginning in Incus version 6.16. So I'm going to do a sudo apt update, and it'll go ahead and get the newest repository information, mostly from Xably, because that is where these updates are contained. And after we finish the update, then we're going to go ahead and do a sudo apt upgrade. And so now I do a sudo apt upgrade -y, and that will go out and download the new version of Incus version 6.16 and install it. Now that the installation is complete, we're going to verify it with an Incus -- version, and we should see version 6.16. A prerequisite for this storage driver is that we install iSCSI, so we're going to do a sudo apt install open -iSCSI, and I'll go ahead and do a -y. And iSCSI is at its latest version because iSCSI was previously installed on this server. I've developed a simple script to make the installation of the tool easy, so I'm going to do a nano uninstall-truenas-incus-ctl.sh, and I'm going to paste the script into that, which will be in the show notes. If we go to the top of the script here, it does an installation using the Go programming language, Golang, and then it installs the product. So we're going to do a Control-O and Enter to write the file out, and a Control-X to exit the Nano editor. Before we can execute the script, we're going to need to provide that script execute privilege, and we do so with the chmod +X on install-truenas-incus-ctl.sh. And now all we have to do is go ahead and install using the script, and we do that with the /install-truenas-incus-ctl.sh, and it goes ahead and performs the installation. Now I need to head back to my TrueNAS web interface, go up to the right-hand corner and click on my username, and I go down to where it says API keys. Here I want to go ahead and add an API key, and I'll just go ahead and give this a name of Incus because it's going to be for my Incus server. I'll go ahead and save that key, and it will give me a copy of the API key, which I want to go ahead and copy because I'm going to need this later, and that's the only time it will be displayed. So I'll go ahead and say copy to clipboard, and then I'll go ahead and close that screen. Back on my Incus server, in order to use the new storage driver called TrueNAS, we're going to do an Incus storage create TrueNAS-storage, and the driver type will be TrueNAS, and then the source will be Incus-tank, and the TrueNAS host will be 172.16.1.115, and then the TrueNAS.API underbar key is listed here, which was the key that we got earlier, and then TrueNAS.allow underbar insecure equals true. I hit enter, and it should go out and create my new storage pool, and it says Incus TrueNAS storage pool created. If I do an Incus storage list command, you can see that I have the default storage pool, which uses the ZFS driver, but then I have a storage pool called TrueNAS-storage that uses the TrueNAS driver. If I do a sudo zpool list, you see the default storage pool being listed here, but we don't see TrueNAS-storage, and although it is a ZFS storage pool, it's hosted on the TrueNAS server, which is why it is not listed here on demo-1. So to list the information about our TrueNAS storage pool that we just created and connected to, we can do an Incus storage info on TrueNAS-storage, and it will come back and tell us that it is only used slightly over a megabyte, and that it has 189 gigabytes of total space, and we set it up to be 200 gigabytes, but that is after the overhead. And now if we want to create a container that uses that storage pool, I can do an Incus launch images:/ubuntu/2404. I'm calling the name of the container test, and I have --storage TrueNAS-storage, and that will go ahead and launch the new container and start it over there. So a word about performance. So the important fact here is that the faster your storage is, the faster your Incus containers will normally be. And that's why in Incus containers step by step, I show creating the default storage pool on an NVMe volume. That being said, iSCSI as a protocol can be extremely fast, and I have some great videos, namely iSCSI Fast Internet Storage, and it talks about the speed of iSCSI and how efficient it is. That being said, you might want to go to a system that has a 2.5 gigabit NIC or even a 10 gigabit NIC for the best performance, and also consider the speed of your backend storage. So now if I do an Incus list, we should see our container up and running, and there it is. If I execute the command Incus launch images:ubuntu 2404 test2, that creates a container on the default storage pool. So now if we do an Incus list, you'll recall that test is running on the TrueNAS storage pool, whereas test2 is running on the default storage pool. So the question is, how do you tell which storage pool they're running on? And Incus list has a command where you can format different columns with different information. And in this particular Incus list command, I'm listing the storage pool out as an additional column. And you can see that test is running on the TrueNAS storage pool, whereas test2 is running on the default storage pool. The new TrueNAS Storage Driver found in Incus 6.16 is really great for you TrueNAS users out there, and I think it really adds a lot of functionality. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like to the channel, and don't forget to hit your notification bell, and we'll see you next time.